Good evening, my ladies and gentlemen, my little sugar wiggles and my beautiful butterflies. This is Chatting with Ms.V coming to you live from Houston, Texas tonight with a heartbreaking story of a professional athlete by the name of A.J. Armstrong, Sr. and Jr., and his wife, Dawn. This story has been going on for about 7 years now. AJ Jr., which I will refer to him as AJ from now on, was 16 years old when this story began. We all know his father as a professional athlete who was a linebacker with the San Francisco 49ers for many years. After leaving football, he came to Houston and resided on the north side of Houston. He was well known to many of us who lived here, not only because he played professional football, but because he was an associate pastor in the Houston area. He was also a motivational speaker. He owned a gym here in the Houston area, and he had 3 kids who went to school here in HISD school system. It's a very touching story to me to have watched him play and watch his life and his lifestyle, how it all just was so perfect, and a family that was full of love, happiness, peace, joy. They were very big into the church here. They gave so much of their self and their time back to the community. Just a very loving family. But 7 years ago, one night things went tragic in their home. AJ Sr. and his wife Dawn were murdered in their bedroom, in the master bedroom of their home here in North Houston. As the story goes, the police were called. AJ Jr. and his sister were the only two home with the parents at the time of the murders. The sister, who was 12 at the time, was sleeping. AJ was said to have been awake and was hiding in the closet at the time of the murders. Both parents were taken from the home and pronounced dead at the time of the arrival of the medical department. The police came to the home and they immediately questioned AJ. AJ, being 16 years old, did not realize that anything he said against or about the case, he didn't even have to say anything against it, but anything he said about the case, was he going to be involved in it? And he talked to the police and made statements without an attorney. This made it very hard for him to even get high profile attorneys. It wasn't about money. These people were very wealthy and could afford any attorney they wanted. But you have to be careful what you say when making statements to the police. It would have been better for him to have said nothing at all. I was in the closet and left it there, but he didn't. So that night, they arrested AJ Jr. for the murders of his parents and took him to jail. In the meantime, his brother, he has an older brother named Josh, who lived down the street from the parents. Once they went to trial, after about 8 months, AJ had a jury trial, and they had a hung jury on the first trial. He was able to come home with the grandparents. There are 3 grandparents, live grandparents, that are involved in this. They always defended AJ and said there was no way. The sister said no way. The older brother, no way. Family members, no way. Church members, no way. Friends, no way. Okay? So he had to go back for a second trial. And on the second trial, there is another hung jury. Welcome to everyone coming into the chat tonight. We're just chatting over here about the A.J. Armstrong trial that went on about 3 weeks ago here in Houston for the third time, a trial that took 7 years to finally convict the son of A.J. Armstrong Sr. But in the meantime, Josh, the older brother, was at Blinn College, and he had left Blinn to come back to go to art school. Okay? After the first trial, he was also openly accused in court that it could have been him. Lots of things were brought out about Josh. They tried to say that he had mental issues, which forensics psychiatrists said there were no mental problems with Josh or AJ before the murders. After the murders, there were some problems with Josh. Of course, he lost his parents. They're accusing his little brother. The little sister's in the house asleep. She doesn't know what's going on. And it's been a story that has rocked Houston for almost 7 years because we still don't know who really killed the parents. We all in dismay as we look at it every day. It's making local news. It's making national news. But local news, every time something comes up, it's on the news. We're not understanding it because we weren't there. We're in disbelief. We can't believe it. I mean, it can happen to anybody, but it's wild. It's a wild story. There are also rumors coming out in the meantime that AJ Sr. is involved in a prostitution ring. Never came up in court. Nobody's never come forth and said it was true. So we have to believe it was a rumor until somebody comes forth and say, well, yeah, I can prove it. In the meantime, the 3 parents are having to bury their son, daughter-in-law, while their grandson is being accused of the murder. And I believe it was about 7 months that he stayed in jail before they let him go home with them on house arrest. Okay? So if you've been following the story, if you live in this area and you've been following the story, you know it has just been a disbelief to most of us who live here. We just still not understanding it. This story happened when this boy was 16 years old. He's now 23 years old. He was a junior in high school when this happened. So his his high school friends are now gone off to college. That's how long it took for a conviction to come down. Court systems move slow, especially if you're in a big city. You got so many cases. It takes a long time. So they were in a win-win situation sometimes when they went and they talked to the attorney or when they went to court. And then that win-win situation turned into a lose, a loss, a big zero. And it went that way for 7 years. You really didn't know how the case was going to go. They were presenting evidence in court that made it look like perhaps AJ did do it. The defense would get up and they would counteract, and there was no way he could have done it. But a lot of things led up to the prosecution getting a lot of evidence on AJ. AJ had been going through his adolescent period and doing things that normal 16-year-olds do. His father had gotten him a car. Who knows what happened to it? Car gone. He had been given some problems in school. And them being parents, they were trying to correct their child. Talking to him, trying to get him on path and get him in the right direction. Nothing atypical about that. I mean, most kids are going to give you problems. If they're going to give you some problems, it's going to be in that adolescent period when they're transitioning from childhood to adulthood. Okay? But yet, they all got along. The entire family got along very well. It was public knowledge, that he was given some problems. Nobody thought much of it. I didn't anyway. All right. So as the story goes, he goes to a second trial. At the second trial, they still hung jury. So even the jury couldn't decide whether he was guilty or not guilty. So he goes back home again. He doesn't serve time this time. This time around, he's, I guess, turning 22, 21, somewhere like that. And I think maybe 21, because I think it was like 2 years later for the third trial. His girlfriend at the time, whose name was Kate, never left him, never left his side. She was there for every trial. She was there to the bitter end. In the meantime, they get married while he's out the second time. And they have a little boy. Okay? The third trial begins. Now they accuse the older brother, Josh, as well as AJ. Now, they're trying to make it be the prosecution, one of the children. Now, you put yourself in that shoe as a grandparent, and your two children, your daughter and your daughter-in-law, 3 grandparents, you've had to bury them. And now you are having to spend money and get the best attorney to try to get your grandson out of this because you don't even believe that he did it because you know him that well. They had to be some strong, tough grandparents to go through all of what they went through in this short period of time. To get down to the third trial. In the meantime, AJ goes to work. He marries. He has a child. He's living his life as a grown man now. So twice a hung jury. And then 7 years later, they go to court and he gets life in prison. So can you imagine He's in his own home the morning of, and he's living his life with his family. I don't know. I can't imagine he's a normal, everyday person. He hasn't been convicted of anything. He's been accused of it. Okay? But he knows, excuse me, the charges that he's got to face if he's found guilty. He seemed very poised throughout the whole time. I saw nothing but a mannerable child who has grown up into an adult, a man, and very helpful, bringing in the boxes into court with his lawyers, well dressed. Even at the third trial, when he got convicted, they took him out of the courtroom and perhaps told him, you do understand, if we don't win this case today, they're going to find you guilty. And it will be life in prison with a 40-year parole. You will stay there 40 years before you see a parole. He's 23 now at this time. I can't imagine being in any of that family's shoes. Not the girlfriend, not the family, the grandparents, the friends, nobody. There were no cameras in the courtroom. So the only thing we had to go by was news reporting that came on all week long leading up to that trial, because it was just that high profile. His father being who he was and a pillar in the community. So now you're accused of killing your parents. What do you tell your wife the morning of when you're leaving her? You don't know if this is going to be the last time you're going to see your little boy. But you're dressing to go to court, not knowing what the outcome is going to be. Praying for the best, hoping for the best. But it did not turn out that way. So you are now Kate sitting in that courtroom. This is your husband that you're going to wave at. You're going to throw a kiss for the last time. So what does Kate do now? She has his son. She's still married to him. He will be an old man when she sees him again, to be able to be at home with him. His kid will grow up looking at him behind bars. It's an awful situation. I don't care how you look at it. It is a bad situation for everybody involved. So he is filed, of course, to go into appellate court. But I don't know how much you know about law and the legal system, but only 5% of people who file in appellate court wins the case. It's not easy. You've already had 3 trials. Even though 2 were hung juries, that means 6 believed and 6 didn't know what to believe. So they were hung 2 times. There was 10 hours of jury deliberation for life in prison. But the day that they came in to the courtroom, they worked all the way through behind the scenes. They didn't want lunch. They didn't want anything. It was kind of obvious from what the news reporters were saying about what was going on in that courtroom that even he knew before they even said it that he had lost the case. So now you have another grieving process to go through 7 years later. You've had your oldest grandchild accused. This is horrible. I just give those grandparents props for being able to withstand going to court with their grandchild. And they stuck by him to this day. They're still sticking by AJ. Me sitting on the outside with knowing what evidence was put out there, I think personally, in my opinion, his attorneys dropped the ball. There were some things that were not even introduced into court and had been held for 18 months. So when you go to appellate court, this is what you're going to have to try to prove, that you didn't get a fair trial. Evidence was left out that should have been in there. And again, you had 3 tries. That is even going to be hard to prove. Welcome again to all the sugar wookers coming in tonight. So we're just at a place where we're jaw dropped 3 weeks later after all of this has expired here in the Houston area. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to think, because I never really saw it ended this way. I thought the first trial that he would be acquitted. Never saw it going to a second trial, but it did. And then a third trial, life in prison at 23 years old, something that started at 16 years old. There were some incidents, I guess you want to call it, that led up to both of the boys doing things that shouldn't have happened, but it did. The older one set a fire in the kitchen. After this, he went through some mental changes, seeing his parents being brought out of that house with the sheets covered over them. And he thought that he could cleanse whatever was in that house out of that house. He really lost it. He really did. Because he got the phone call from AJ. AJ called his older brother, a cousin, and Kate. Kate was actually the one who called the police. He was whispering in the closet at that time. And she has stood by him the entire time and married him. Crime scenes do take on the personality of their killer in most cases. But I don't see that in this case. I see some things that 2 young adults or 2 children did. It's probably normal behavior for their age. But I just don't see them as murderers. And that's just my opinion. So there is also, like I said, an alleged prostitution ring that was supposedly done by his father. They haven't proved it, so I can't believe it. And a person is innocent until proven guilty. And sometimes it depends on your attorney, how well your defense attorney can defend you. And how many years of experience in a courtroom that the prosecution team have. It all depends on that too. So there are a lot of innocent people that are in prison for crimes they don't do. We see them come out after 40 years, after 30 years. Old men went in as teenagers before DNA. There were a lot of people who served life in prison. It's getting a little bit better now because of DNA samples. So you have 3 accomplished children that's doing well. You have a father who has finished his football career. He's back living his life. He has a gym open. He's a motivational speaker. He has a loving wife who was over on Facebook always talking about the love, how much she loved him and her children. They seem like a perfect couple. We'll never know. Until the truth finally comes out. And it will. It always does. It could take years. But it is the way it is. So he spent 8 months in jail the first go round, not ever visiting his junior class in high school, having to become an adult overnight. You up on the stands now for murder. And it almost appeared that if one didn't go down, the other one was going down. So it was going to either be Josh or AJ. They were pointing to both of them. But they couldn't really put it on Josh because he wasn't there. He was at home. He had a girlfriend there. He had a cousin there. He came to the scene. So if it can't be Josh, it's going to be AJ. They never looked for any outside witnesses because the burglar alarm was set on and had to be turned off when the police officers got there. So that meant that a person had to be in the house or had left the house and the alarm was reset. So there's a lot of questions in my mind as to what really happened in that house that night. Parents shot in the head in their own bedroom with pillows over their head. The daughter is in there sleeping, but she doesn't hear anything. She's 12. It's been very hard for that family. And I only ask over here at Chatting with Ms.V that we continue prayers for the Armstrong family because there are survivors. There's a brother. There's a brother in jail. There's a sister. 17 years later, she was 12. That would make her 19 now. She's entering adulthood as a grown woman with no parents. The parents are gone regardless of whatever the situation. They're not coming back. That's the hardest part. So let me speak to everybody and get into the chat and see if anybody has looked at this case. Thank you for coming in tonight. Yo, I appreciate that. Hey, Sting, thank you for coming in with the hearts and roses. I appreciate you. Annette Wiggins, good evening, Ms.V in chat. I love your headband. Thank you, Annette. Marshall's is my favorite for my headgear. Come in, hit the like button, says Sting. Subscribe, please, and thank you. Thank you for the roses. Hi, Valencia. Enjoying my Saturday. I am too, Valencia. It's been a very quiet Saturday. Last Saturday was wild with Cuzzo here, but that was his last Saturday here. So it's back to normal again now. I haven't done very much this weekend, just rested because that was a wild, full week for Ms.V, trying to get him back on track and get him back to where he needed to be, get my life back on track where it needed to be, and then carry on with my life. That's been my week. But today I decided to just rest, relax, and whatever I wanted to do, that's what I did. Much of nothing, okay? Hey, Carolyn, how you doing this evening? Thank you, Valencia. I appreciate that. Good evening, caller. How you doing? Love your headband. Thank you. Y'all can go to Marshall's. That's where I go to get most of my stuff. Go to Marshall's. I don't usually find anything unless I go to Marshall's. But when I do go and I look, I don't go that often. I might come out with 10 different things. It might be scarves, bands, because I love putting stuff around my head. I always like that. I don't know why, but I do. Hey, Deborah Silver, good evening. How are you doing? Has anybody even seen, you're from the area, are you aware of the story with the Armstrongs? Hey, Annette, straight out of Naptown. Hey, friend. T's Kitchen is in the building. Hey to everyone. Okay. Y'all are still speaking to each other. I'm trying to get down to a comment. Y'all still speaking. Hey, Jackie Johnson, thank you for the hearts. I appreciate that. Dokie, hey. T's Kitchen say, oh, wow. Yeah. Like I say, it's been a journey watching this. And I like to watch trials. Back when OJ had his trial, I was working shift work, but I would stay up or I would get up because CNN was steady reeling it. And whatever they reel while I was asleep, I get up and I catch it. And I followed it every day. And that was a long trial too. T's Kitchen say, oh gosh, yes. Hey to Jissy, how you doing? And Lynette Miller. Why don't you trolls go back under y'all's bridge? Because they like coming in here. They really like Ms.V. Because they wouldn't even stop over here if they didn't like me. Think about it, Steve. They'd go somewhere else or they wouldn't tune in. Yeah, that's when people want your attention and they really like you when they do that. But they're never going to come in under their name. Never. They coming in as trolls. I think I missed a good chat. That's okay, Tajisty. My replays are always up. And y'all, I went on my new app this morning and used it, and I forgot to hit that checkbox. So I went back and I hit the checkbox because I hit the stop. That was the one Cuzzo made for me that I did this morning. And that thing stayed up for about 5 hours on live. So I have to remember when I go on my new app, the one with the banner and the chatting with Ms.V that he made for me, I got to hit that checkbox to turn it off and then hit stop. So I'm trying to text him and call him, and I'm like, you know what? He don't even have the phone on. So you're going to have to figure this out. So what I figured is I turned everything off after I hit the stop. But if you do it that way, it's going to take a long time for it to go off. Because Myra did call me and tell me the live was still on. And I was like, God, dog, I forgot to hit the check button. But that's okay. I got to get used to it. So I'm going to keep using it. And sometimes the live may stay up for a while. But I keep watching it and, make sure no comments come in that don't need to come in there. What's up, Chi-Town Low End Sister? Thank you for the rose. That's okay to just, like I say, I don't take my lives down unless they picture quality is real bad, or sometimes, my Wi-Fi works right here where I'm sitting in this place better than anywhere. But in this area, there's so many hospitals and there's the Space Center. Wi-Fi just does not come in good. At the old place, it didn't come in good. And this place ain't too much better. You got to try to find you a spot that the Wi-Fi will come in. And then somebody told me, turn it off. I've tried turning it off and it'll do the same thing. So it is what it is. Hey, Wanda, how you doing? No, ma'am, I don't watch the news. I hadn't been watching the news lately, but I said this past week I'm gonna get back into watching national news now because I kind of need to know what's going on in the world. I stopped watching the news for a long time because every time you watch the news, it ain't never nothing hardly good on there. It's always disasters, it's murders, it's um child abductions. It ain't never house burning down. It ain't never nothing you want to see. But I'm going to have to. I got to know what's going on. I'm over here by myself, okay? I really thought the case was over, but it was still going on locally. That had to be and still hard for all. It was over 3 weeks ago, Doki. You say locally. That had to be and still hard for all the families. Such sadness. It is very sad for the community even. Because like I say, everybody knew them. Everybody in this Houston area, they either knew him from playing football or they knew him from owning the gym in Houston or being a motivational speaker. His wife, she played a big part in the community also. His children, he had 3 children in the school system. That brought in a whole lot of friends and other people right there. So they were well known. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think that is the last comment there. But yes, that's what I had been looking at for a couple of weeks. And then I thought about it today and I said, I don't know how many people really know about this case because it's local, but it's also nationwide because of him playing with the 49ers as a linebacker. So I decided let's talk about this, and then we'll hit one shot with it, and then we'll be gone. So that's what I wanted to bring to y'all tonight: the story of AJ Armstrong and his wife Dawn and the Armstrong family, who are still going through a terrible nightmare with their grandson being in jail for murder at 23 years old, the murder of his parents. All right, let's see if I got all the comments. And if so, I'm going to end it and y'all can move on to another chat. It's been a relaxing time over here with chatting with Ms.V all day, every day. I appreciate all of y'all coming in and hitting that like button. Carla, you just getting in here or you been in here? Because Ms.V, she come out here, she say what she got to say, she talk to y'all. And when I finish my commentary, bam, it's over and I'm out. Okay. Tomorrow we'll catch a ride to church for 10:15. Our pastor will not be there tomorrow. He's in Baltimore for the next 2 weeks, preaching up there. And we will not have a drummer tomorrow. So they're going to be depending on Ms.V tomorrow for the beat with the tambourine. So if y'all can catch it at Greater Barbers Chapel at 10:15 tomorrow, I don't even know who's going to preach tomorrow, but I'm going to be there, okay? Greater Barbers Chapel, Texas City, Pastor Cotton on Facebook at 10:15 tomorrow. Until then, y'all take care. Ms.V has been here, and she is over and out. Y'all have a blessed night. Love you much. Bye-bye. Hey, Elaine, you coming in? I'm going out. Love you. Thank you. I was here at first. Have a great night. You too. Have a great night to you, Myra. I appreciate all of you coming in and listen to the commentary tonight. I just couldn't believe it. I truly believe other thoughts. It's hard to believe, Doki. Very hard to believe that, yeah, this kid was given some problems, but I don't think problems enough to shoot his parents in the head. I mean, this is a very intelligent kid. Um, I don't. I'm like you. I just don't. All right. Good night, all. Good night to you too, Yo Yo, and everybody who came into the chat tonight. Love you much. Bye bye.